So yeah, all very precious, all very fragile, all worth fighting for. And God forbid we ever arrive at a point again when somebody with no God-given right whatsoever tries to restrict our movements in these lands. Hey up! Welcome back. And as you can see today, out on my beloved little Royal Enfield Classic 350, the little bike with the big personality and always drawing attention to herself. Quite the prima donna, this bike. Just back there in Otley, the old dear there crossing the road, and she looked at me and she said, "Bye, Eck, that takes me back to my youth." I assume she was referring to the bike and not me. Hey! Now the thing about this Classic 350, I mean, if you've looked back and you've seen some of my bike reviews out of Apple Yards in Keighley, you'll know that I've reviewed the Royal Enfield Hunter 350 and the Royal Enfield Meteor 350. And if you go far enough back, you'll see my initial thoughts on this bike just after I got it. But I think this is the best of the bunch. Other people, for their own equally good reasons, either prefer the Meteor or the Hunter, but I just love the look of this bike. And dressed up as she is in as much retro clobber as I can just about get away with, she is every bit the time warp machine. Wouldn't be out of place to see Corporal Jones on this, would it? Especially with them Royal Enfield canvas panniers out back. Yeah, don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Don't panic, it's a Royal Enfield. I've been waxed lyrical in the past about the challenges of running in the Royal Enfield single cylinder models. I should point out, I've done about 800 miles on this now and she's opening up nicely. In fact, I'm pretty much not, I mean, I'm obviously not spanking the pants off this bike. But I'm no longer riding her like a budgie with chapped lips. So I'm not really making a conscious effort anymore to stay within certain parameters, because with a bike like this, particularly once you get to know it, you can just tell when she's happy and when she's not happy. And at the moment, pootling along here at what, 55 miles an hour, she's very happy indeed. And therefore, so am I. So yeah, I think the Royal Enfield Classic 350 is, in my opinion, it's the most faithful nod to 1950s, 1960s to a certain extent, early 70s British motorcycling. It's the most faithful homage to that bygone era. But you've always got to remain grounded, you know. I don't know about you, but I've been a bugger in the past for changing motorcycles on a regular basis. Always with the thought that the next one will be the one that makes you happy, the one that gives you that fulfillment in life, the one bike you could confidently say, I don't need to change this now, this is where I'm at with my biking. And the closest I've come to that is my Royal Enfields. Yeah, so on that on the last video, which I suppose some might regard as quite controversial, lots of really good comments, including from a very successful YouTuber called Jeff Buys Cars. Jeff Buys Cars, take a look at his channel, 40 odd thousand subscribers, and he's very much on top of current affairs in relation to motor vehicles, and in particular the world of restrictions and ULEZ and CAS and road charging and all of that. And well worth subscribing to that channel to keep up to date with some of the more concerning stuff in the pipeline for us two-wheel petrol heads. Yeah, right, if anybody wants to ride this route, it's an absolute cracking route to Pateley Bridge, which is pretty much my second home these days. But the thing with Pateley Bridge is, well, one, it's in the Nid Valley, which, as you know, is very close to my heart. And number two, its geographical location within the Yorkshire Dales National Park is absolutely a premium one. There are so many different places you can get to from there, be it Massam or Middleham or Hawes in Wensleydale, Kettlewell, Tanhill, keep going all the way across to the North York Moors and over to Whitby. And we hang a right here at Greenhow, left takes you to Grassington, and that is also a fabulous spectacular ride over the tops, and then down past Stump Cross Caverns. But we hang a right here at Greenhow and just follow the road into Pateley Bridge. So that's the route I normally take. Look at that view. Can't get tired of that, can you? Fabulous. Well, here we are, high up on the moors between Pateley Bridge and a little place called Kirby Malzeard, not far out of Massum. And it's truly wild and woolly out here, but breathtakingly beautiful. And if you're in this neck of the woods, it's well worth taking a ride. There's basically a couple of ways you can get from Pateley Bridge to Massum. And this is the one that you approach via Old Church Lane out of Pateley Bridge. And the other way basically is to go on Low Wath Road to a little village called Lofthouse and then hang a right by the Crown Pub. And that takes you right over the tops and you drop down to Leighton Reservoir. And from there again to Massum. And then you've a couple of alternatives really. You can get up to Wensleydale or you can go back through Ripon. I say back, it's back for me because that's the way back to my neck of the woods. But just look how absolutely breathtaking this landscape is. And again, a different part of the Nid Valley to last time. And it impresses in a slightly different way. It's more sort of stark and foreboding than, say, the Scar House end of the Nid Valley, which is more lush and nurturing. And I suppose you could describe it as quite cosy, whereas you probably describe this as a bit bleak and challenging. But it's awesome. You know, when you come to places like this, it can humble you, it grounds you, it brings you back down to earth because it makes you contemplate what's actually real and what in life's fairly plastic, really. I often wonder if we're too obsessed with material things, and then I have to check myself and remind myself that motorcycles are material things. But the material things that bring us closer to the things in life that matter, like the reality of this landscape out here. Because whatever else is happening out there in the big bad world, being done to us by big bad people, places like this will always be here. And there's something fundamentally honest about landscapes like this. Not just Yorkshire. I'm a Yorkshireman, so I'm very, very biased in that regard, of course, but there will be other wild places which are every bit as genuine and elemental and constant in a world full of change, and change that's often not for the better. But I'm reminded of a quote from, of all things, a children's book. And I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a book called The Velveteen Rabbit, written by somebody called Marjorie Williams some time ago. And although it's a child's book about a child's toys that sort of come to life and speak to each other, it has far more depth to it than that. And over the years, people have read various different meanings into the words, particularly the words of a particular passage between a conversation between the Velveteen Rabbit and the Skin Horse, a couple of toys. And I suppose many people in the past have attributed to those words meanings that were never intended by the author. And it means different things to different people. But it means something in particular to me, which is about what is real and what's not real, and what the difference is between everyday life and work and rules and regulations and having to comply with things left, right and centre. There's a great song by Chris Rea called Gone Fishing. Brilliant song, brilliant melody line, brilliant lyrics. But there's a line in the song Gone Fishing which goes, you can spend a whole lifetime trying to be what you think is expected of you, but you'll never be free. And that's really, really true. And I think it chimes somewhat with the words from the Velveteen Rabbit. So just indulge me, I'm just going to read you a little part of it. And the skin horse says to the rabbit, generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. And essentially it's about how the love of a child can make even the oldest and most shabby of toys real, in a way that the big new shiny ones can't be. And I find those words very very grounding indeed, because what it's basically saying is that there are far more qualities to the things that are important and the things that should make us happy as humans than their immediate appearance, than the veneer. Yeah, you need to come to a landscape like this and think about words like that from people like Chris Rea and Marjorie Williams from the Velveteen Rabbit. And they're very simple words, but they sum up life perfectly. So it's time for this little beauty and me to get back on the road and just have the bimble over the moors again, back home. So hope you enjoyed that. If you're in this neck of the woods, as I said, get up here. Take Old Church Lane out of Pateley Bridge and get up to this wild and woolly landscape and have a think about the things that matter in life and what's real and what's not real. And don't forget, the more old and droopy and loose in the joints and shabby that you get, the more real you are. It's not in anybody's gift to make conditional in any way our simple right to enjoy the landscape, whether you choose to do so on foot, on bicycle, on motorcycle, in your car if you must. When you look down at all of that, I mean, that's Pateley Bridge, nestled in the Nid Valley there, and up there in the distance, just in the middle of the valley there, you should be able to see Garthwaite Reservoir. And it's a beautiful place, isn't it? It's a fairy tale place, and I could be really, really envious of the people who live here. So yeah, all very precious, all very fragile, all worth fighting for. And God forbid we ever arrive at a point again when somebody with no God-given right whatsoever tries to restrict our movements in these lands. I think that will be the time really to stand Stand up for your birthright. If something's worth living for, it's worth fighting for. And that's been the case throughout history, hasn't it? Something worth living for is always something worth fighting for. And with that thought, I'll thank you again for watching this far, if indeed you have, and to implore that you ride safe, be kind, and until the next time, toodle pip.